What is up, gang? It's Matt and Forrest from Red Wings Diehards. Forrest, a big win at home tonight, 2-1 comeback fashion. If there's anything to feel good about tonight, it's the fact that Detroit continues to own Patrick Waugh.
Your tweet is spot on tonight. There is one thing that we can all collectively come together in today's day and age. It is behind all of our hatred as Detroit sports fans for Patrick Waugh, and we can't wait to get into it.
Turn up your volume. Because you're about to listen to The Sick Podcast. Hockey Town Hangout.
Brings it in, scores! Oh, his first NHL goal is a beauty!
The sickest Detroit Red Wings podcast. It's gonna be sick.
Hockey Town Hangout, all things Red Wings hockey. So, Forrest, big win tonight, comeback fashion. Red Wings kept it close somehow most of the game. Alex Lyon had a few massive saves throughout the victory and were able to capitalize off a mistake, a broken stick. Jonathan Berger, an absolute snipe, far side top corner. And then Captain Larks to the rescue, finding Lucas Raymond open in front for a nice post-in goal, game winner. Your thoughts?
Just overall better effort tonight. It's said that it took a 3-game losing streak against, the Kings aren't bad. They made the playoffs last year, but the Sharks, and I'm just blanking at the other team right now.
Ducks.
The Ducks, thank you. The 3 games, they really didn't look competitive in 2 out of the 3. To have 31 shots on goal tonight after only 11 the last time they played the Islanders. We know the Islanders kind of pack it in, limit shots. For them to have 31 shots tonight, I was like, okay. It just appears to me that maybe they're trying something different, and that excites me to see them try something different after all this time. Like, we've been beating our heads against the wall. Casper playing a great game. You said Berggren scored, capitalized on that opportunity. Sider's playing well. Evanson's playing well. Our young guys are ascending, and I think that's hopefully if we can continue to see that go, we're going to continue to trend in the right direction. Raymond's at a point of game. Just it's got me really charged up tonight. Like, what a way to end the game. Like, down 1-0 the entire time, fighting, get a break on the broken stick, and then win it with a minute left on a lucky, I wouldn't even say lucky. It was a hard work bounce. Larkin getting down there at the end of a shift, showing the grit, going down underneath the red line. It was an exciting finish to the game, and it was exciting to see them really get after it offensively, I thought, in relation to where they've been the first, 18 or so games.
Yeah, and I think, it's easy when you go through a road trip like that with a result like that against the quality of opponent like that. It's really easy to, throw the doom and gloom on. We're all kind of guilty of it in our own ways. And don't get me wrong, this team still has plenty of question marks that we'll talk about here in a little bit. But yeah, winning really does kind of, sober you up a little bit, so to speak. And it was really great to see the young guys play so well tonight. Like, all of them collectively. I even thought Johansson had a pretty decent game. And so that's really good to see. That's what we were sold 5 years ago when he got here. Patience, it's going to take time. We're going to do it through the draft. And it was nice to see a game tonight and then cap it all off with his highest draft pick, Lucas Raymond, getting the game-winning goal. Again, really liked the effort that Lyon had tonight. He had a bit of a stinker his last game that he started, so that was good to see him bounce back. Beautiful save it was a tip shot in late first, early second. I forget when it was, but stuff like that, that gets you points in the standings, those types of performances. But what I really liked was he went to the line juggling a little bit, and it worked. Like, he put Tyler Mott up there with Lucas Raymond and Dylan Larkin, and it kind of worked. And I shit talked it a little bit at first, but Mott was out there kind of getting in and retrieving a little bit, and like you said, Larkin finishing off at the end of the shift there at the end of the game. It was really nice to see. Obviously, Derek Lalone has been the subject of a lot of discussion lately. A lot of people would say his seat's pretty hot. I think this win tonight at least turns the temperature down 5 to 10 degrees for the time being.
I'll agree with you for the time being. It remains to be seen whether they can build off of what we saw at the end tonight.
Sure.
Third period, I would dare I say maybe one of the best periods we played all season long. Just overall all over the place. It looked like they wanted it, and gosh, I really can't say that over the course of the season so far they've wanted it more than the other team night
Yeah.
in and night out, and you could see that they did. A couple of saves were Lyons just in position. He saved the one off his helmet at one point, never even saw the puck. You need things like that to go your way, and then when you're opportunistic at the end, I mean, we saw it all down the stretch last year. They would go into the third period kind of looking lackadaisical, and then they turn it on in the last 10 minutes, and they've won so many games over the last 10 in the stretch run last year.
Yeah.
Have it in them. It just remains to be seen whether they can start putting it together on a more consistent basis. You mentioned the line juggling. I think a team like this, with as much, we'll say, like middle tier talent as they have, you got to mix guys, because so many guys are interchangeable and so many guys are kind of in that same level. Like Tarasenko, Comfort, Cop. I would say all of those guys are pretty similar in my opinion. Granted, they play different positions, but you can move them around. Rasmussen up and down. You mentioned Mott. Seeing people go up and down, like, it gives them an opportunity, and it can energize guys. I mean, they got to keep going with it. That's what I think.
I'm not going to lie. In the third period, when the Islanders started doing the neutral zone trap, Mick was talking about it a little bit, like just super passive forecheck line of guys in the neutral zone. And I thought it was game over at that point. I thought we were about to lose 1-0 on some stupid defensive New York Islanders shit real quick. But, all it took was one bounce, and it just that stick breaking and Berggren finishing, like that felt like a moment that the team has been waiting for like a week plus at this point. And, if that happened in the Ducks game or the Sharks game, Berggren sails that over the net. It's not even a shot on goal, probably. So, moments like that can build confidence, and, we'll kind of see how it goes. But yeah, that I agree with you in the sense that, like, you could sniff that little bit of resilience tonight, like a little bit of blood in the water from the team last year, so to speak. And it was Pavel Datsyuk night, for crying out loud. So the way that they came together and they're like, no, we're gonna find a way to gut this out here. I mean, that's credit to the team and credit to the guys who capitalized on their chances there in the third period. And just on the broadcast, the camera panned to Patrick Waugh like after that timeout, and you could just tell the thoughts going through his mind. There will be nothing sweeter than that, I think, like in Detroit sports for me personally, than when you get the chance to square up against Patrick Waugh and just leave him confused and angry and bitter. And I think it's beautiful. So moving on from tonight, obviously, before tonight had been a tough stretch for the Wings. They were able to get a win over the Penguins, the first game of their 4-game road trip, and then proceeded to lose the next 3 in California, 2 of which against really bad teams. This has led to a lot of dialogue and discourse about the roster assembly of the team as well as the coaching of the team. We did see yesterday that Boston, the team we play next, curiously enough, and who we're kind of jostling with for wild card position, big game Saturday, they elected to fire their coach, Montgomery, getting replaced with Joe Sacco. And you could argue that the next coach whose seat is the hottest is Derek Lalone's. So I just want to kind of get your thoughts on where you're at with everything. We're about 20 games in. We're at about the quarter pull, damn near. What are your thoughts?
It's a roller coaster, but it doesn't have as high a potential as last year. I know we finished 91 points, essentially a tiebreaker out of the playoffs. We had a lot go right last season. Came out swinging at the start. We had 2 months where Alex Lyon was invincible, and that can still happen. But I just think that you mentioned roster construction, this team, that like the comments that Steve Yzerman made, it was kind of trying to stay middle ground. They weren't really improving in any of the areas. It was like, oh, we're getting Gustafson to replace Gostisbehere because that's what we have, that's what we want to fill. And then we had Tarasenko come in, and like we re-signed Kane. I think it's more of a roster construction issue for me. And at the quarter pole, I think they got to make a move. You mentioned, you and I were texting today, Chitrin for Jensen, the third round pick. Why can't Steve make a trade like that? Why can't we be bold and try and swing for the fences? Why are we trading Jake Wallman for essentially nothing when he's, in my opinion, our third best defenseman? Lots of questions overall, but I think this team they're on pace for probably like mid 70s in points. The Athletic had them at 81. I think 81 would be a good season in my estimation. Just the way this team is made, I don't see them being a playoff team.
Just like the thing that kind of stinks the most about it, like Gustafson, 2-year deal. Tarasenko, 2-year deal. Sherratt, another year on his deal. Kopp, another few years on his deal. Comfort, another few. Like, these guys aren't going anywhere. And like we have seen to this point, like no real urgency to like clear out some of those guys. And maybe once some years expire, they're easier to move. I don't know if Sherratt becomes easier to move this summer because he's only got 1 year left or whatever the fuck. But I think there are a lot of questions about how the roster is put together, and I think it's deserved, honestly. You see organizations like the New York Rangers who hit on teams all the time, or excuse me, hit on players all the time. They bring in, Jonathan Quick, Vinny Trocheck, Artemi Panarin, and that one's kind of a layup, but still we're able to go get him and assemble their cap in a way that could accommodate him at the time. And I don't understand why it appears to be easier for some teams to identify that type of talent on the pro scouting side. We've talked about this lots on this podcast, but I think it's just there's certain people within the social media realm who want Yzerman to get canned. Now, I'm not there yet, and candidly, I think he's got a ton of leash left. And there's a lot of things that you can do to try and fix the things that have been the thorns in your side for so long. And you just don't really hear much about that on that front. Like I don't, obviously, we're just a couple of jerks on the internet who have microphones and Twitter accounts and whatever. But, I don't understand the ins and outs of how hockey ops departments are put together, or what the rules are, or what the unwritten rules are, whatever it is, or how you can negotiate with people if you can poach people from other teams. Like, I don't know all that stuff. But if we don't see any effort on that front and we continue to see players come in and underperform, what are we supposed to think as fans? Are we just supposed to, trust the process is a sports buzz phrase rather. And, I can buy into that for a while, but you got to show me some things. Like I was thinking about it the other day. If you had like a little timeline between Marian Hossa and Patrick Kane, outside of Alex DeBrincat, because Alex DeBrincat wanted to come here, and like it didn't matter who the general manager was or the scouting staff was, he was coming here. So between Hossa and Kane, like, does any like pro acquisition like really jump out at you at like? I can't really think of anything that noteworthy between those two, and we're talking like 15 years of time. And
yeah,
go ahead.
No, I think you're spot on there. Like all of the good free agent acquisitions we've had have been shorter term deals, and usually the lower the better. Like Alex Lyon, Cam Talbot, gosh, that unfortunately that's where a lot of it ends, right? Like,
yeah,
go ahead.
I just think that, you have to field a team. You want to they've made it clear at this point that they want to field competitive teams, and we're not buried yet. Like it's still you have 75% of the season left, and we're only 2-3 points out of a wild card spot, believe it or
Well,
not.
part of that is the NHL point system, but continue.
For sure. And the East is a cluster F right now. So they're kind of benefactors from all of that in a sense at the time. But yeah, so just with the way the team is assembled, I would be so curious to be a fly on the wall during some of these meetings and what we're talking about and how we're evaluating. I would be so curious because I have a feeling that other teams are doing other things that we're not doing, and that's why we're falling behind the 8 ball a little bit. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe we're not even taking that approach. Maybe we don't even value pro scouting that much because we are so committed to building through the draft, and that's why this shit is taking so long. But there are ways to get better quicker if you can be aggressive and get good pieces and good fits. I mean, this isn't the NFL where a guy can get drafted in the second, third, fourth, even later sometimes rounds and be a starter the next year and impacting the big club. Like hockey doesn't work that way, unfortunately. But you still have to field a team in the meantime. So you have a captain who's getting pretty close to 30. He's going to be 30 in 2026, and that's not that far away. So we got to do something about getting this guy surrounded with people so we can start going on playoff runs. And if we continue to do the same things we've been doing for the last 15 years, where we do not hit on a lot of our pro acquisitions, that's going to be a lot harder to accomplish.
We got to get better at defense. Like our defense in general has got to get better. Our two best defensemen play on the top pairing together, and we have a second and third pairing that pretty much consistently gets played off the ice. So we got to definitely improve in that area. Going back to this roster construction thing, in today's day and age, with the salary cap, with how it's been flat for the last couple of years, you got to get creative with how you fit players in. And I think the willingness to go out and sign free agents with, as you mentioned, scouts that haven't been hitting at a high rate, it doesn't work in today's day and age with the salary cap. You have to have young kids up there. In my opinion, you should have at least 3 or 4 guys making league minimum $100 million at least in order to balance out guys on the top end. That is what it takes in today's day and age. And all of the best teams have that young talent in there. Granted, they reach a point where they have to pay them all, but like Tampa, when they won all their cups, they had like Cirelli on there. They had Killorn was there making a bunch of money before he went off or not like on a decent deal before he went off to Anaheim. Like they have all these guys in there on these friendly deals. They have the young players pulling their weight as well. I just really think that you mentioned that Yzerman has like still a long leash to go. I think that if we don't start embracing playing the young kids and really trying to bear the fruits of all the years of despair that we've had, I think we have to start playing them and really seeing what they can do, because this team is not going to reach its potential trying to pick free agents out in their late 20s, early 30s, because that is when players start to decline. That's not how you build a team long term. You build it internally, and then you add maybe a piece or two via free agency or trade. I just think it's being gone about wrong, and I don't think that I'm not sitting here calling for Steve's job, but I think that, hey, they don't make the playoffs this year. They don't bring some young players up and give them playing time next year. I think the seat gets hot.
So obviously there's, some pros and cons to moving on from the coach now versus letting him finish the year. Obviously, if you do it now, you kind of can negotiate with whoever you want. You can have kind of your pick of the litter, so to speak. Wait until the summertime. Obviously, some other teams you might be competing with for the same people. So there's pros and cons to both. There's, the old new coach spark or kick in the ass or however you want to call it. That can happen too. And like I mentioned earlier, like we're not that far out of a playoff spot. So could potentially, if we only 2 or 3 points out right now. If it gets to like 4 and 5 and 6, and then you start sniffing like maybe out of it territory, like maybe at that point you have enough pressure on to do it then. I might be in the minority here, but we were chatting about this the other day with David Montgomery. A lot of people seem to be kind of salivating about that. I think he's a good coach, but he hasn't won anything beyond the first round of the playoffs. Maybe second round. I'm not entirely sure on that, but he has not gone far in the playoffs. Getting President's trophies is nice. We've done that before, and it's not the Stanley Cup, and that's ultimately what we want to be chasing. And it's a long process, unfortunately. And I think next year, guys like Danielson, Mazer, dare I say, Sandine Pellica, could some of these guys take that step to the NHL? Sebastian Kosa, what's Trey Augustine going to do next year? So I think, unfortunately, you're just kind of stuck in this little gap phase here, maybe, because, Cop and Comfer aren't going anywhere. Petrie's contract is up at the end of the year, which is, music to several people's ears, I'm sure. But there's guys on the team who aren't going anywhere unless they get traded. And obviously when it comes to trades, it's, what are you getting back? Who are you negotiating with? What's the return? All that type of stuff. So I really just am not sure what's going to happen next, because you felt like you're at the lowest of the low, losing to the Sharks and the Ducks. And then you look like you're about to get shut out 1-0 on home ice on Pavel Datsyuk night. And then you win 2-1 in regulation. And hockey's weird. Hockey's so dumb sometimes, and it makes no sense. But that's why you really got to take it one day at a time. And I think somehow, this Boston game on Saturday is like kind of huge now, because if you could win this game in regulation, that's a 4-point swing against a division team, a team that's reeling a little bit, not getting great goaltending. So I'm really curious to see how they come out from that, because winning this game tonight like you did on Pavel Datsyuk night, I gotta imagine that lights a little bit of a fire, a little bit at least. I'm hoping.
Hopefully a lot of it, like seeing the energy in the last couple minutes. Like if we could just start using, playing with that for 60, this team would start putting more pucks in the net, I think. Yeah. Boston on Saturday, I really think, I hate, there's 82 games in every season. Last season, we really harped on the 2 in Arizona, that against Arizona that we lost, games we should have won, points we should have had, and we should have gotten into the playoffs. I think this Boston game on Saturday is really kind of a microcosm of the season. Can they pull up their bootstraps? Can they put the puck in the net on a team that, as you mentioned, is not having consistent goaltending, which is what ultimately got their coach fired? Because we've all expected Boston over the last decade to be a playoff team, and they're just not there right now. So we got Boston coming up on Saturday. We got the Isles again on Monday, Calgary, New Jersey. Not a terrible stretch, I would say. I would say all teams that are right around the area the Wings are in the standings, talent level, and it's early, but Thanksgiving is next Thursday. So we've got 3 games before, the quarter season barometer that everybody says if you're in the playoffs on Thanksgiving, you have a pretty good chance of making it. If you're out, chances are not looking good for you. So they've got 3 games, and if they want to be in the playoffs come Thanksgiving, like they were last season, even though they wound up regressing and falling out, they got to pull up their bootstraps, and I would say get at least 5 points out of these next 3 games at the very least.
Yeah, did you happen to see that Spit and Chicklets clip where they're talking about Sergei Fedorov coming to coach the team?
Yes.
So I know we really don't want another rookie head coach next, but if it's Sergei Fedorov, how are you feeling? Not saying we think this is going to happen, but
he's been coaching over in Russia. Granted, I don't know off the top of my head how many years he's been doing it, but I assume it's a couple, and I believe it's for one of, if not the biggest, most successful teams over in Russia as well. So I don't think that he's necessarily a rookie head coach. Yes, technically in the NHL, he'll be a rookie head coach, but I think that it can't hurt. Like if we don't fire Lalonde, during the season and he makes it through, he can't come back if we don't make the playoffs. I would like to see somebody like Sergey. I mean, I just want to see someone different at this point. I think it's been the same messaging for too long, and I would like. Granted, I've never seen Fedorov coach or anything, but I would love a coach with some fire. Somebody that holds players accountable, that really squeezes all the juice out of these guys and gets them to play to their full potential. And having someone with the lore of a Sergei Fedorov, with his former teammate Steve Yzerman, I think that carries some weight, and I think that might have a couple free agents potentially in the future. Maybe put a little side eye at the Wings and say, hey, it might be cool to play with two Red Wing greats here and get to pick their brain and stuff. Just a different angle, I think, and in today's day and age, it's just another way to set yourself apart. So I say, heck, let's do it, man. We brought AJ Hinch in this town, why not?
Just like the fantasy land in my head that exists where that is reality is just insane to think about. Like, imagine logging on to twitter.com and seeing that frigging news. That would just, it wouldn't even feel real. It wouldn't even feel real. But so, like we said, we got the next 5 games here. I got these jotted down. Boston, the Islanders again, Calgary, New Jersey, and then Vancouver takes us to December 1st. So 10 points up for grabs in that group. If we're getting how many, are you feeling good about life?
5 games. I'd say we need at least 8 points. 8 points would have me feeling good. Whether that be 4 wins, however you chop that up, I think that we probably need 8 points in the games in order to keep pace. Because at the end of the day, there's a lot of teams stacking up here in the East. We haven't started off so hot. We had a bad road trip. I mean, there's a lot that remains to be seen, but I think the momentum we've seen from this game, if they can continue it against Boston, they can continue these next couple games. I think we can definitely have some excitement going into the remaining 3 quarters of the season here.
Yeah, for sure. So I think, Boston's beatable. The goaltending's not that great. We obviously know we can beat the Islanders. We've already done that twice. Calgary is a beatable team, I think. That New Jersey game's like a Friday 3 p.m. game, so that's kind of a weird one. If you can start that on time, catch them on their heels a little bit, maybe. I mean, maybe you turn this into a little winning streak. Like you said, hopefully it's a lot of bit of fire that got lit tonight. So I think we're all hopeful for that. So you think for Newsy to earn another contract, he has to make the playoffs for sure.
Yeah.
Otherwise, he's gone, you think?
I do. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm with you.
I mean, he's like the 3rd longest tenured coach in the NHL.
Isn't that insane?
This is his 3rd season.
It's insane. I saw a tweet where it's like every finalist from the 2023 Jack Adams finalist group has been fired by that team. It's insane how quickly these coaches get fired, but that's the modern game. There's a lot of money involved and a lot of politicking in sports, as we all know. But hey, you get paid all that money to win games, and if you're not winning games, there's no reason why people who have a ton of money want to keep paying you their money. So that's just the world we live in, unfortunately. So Newsy can sleep peacefully tonight. Seat's a little less hot. We'll go to practice tomorrow. We'll try and get ready for Boston on Saturday. Massive game. Biggest game of the year so far, I would say.
I'm with you. It's going to be a microcosm of the rest of the season, and hopefully they can continue to ride the momentum and pick up another one against the Reeling Bruins. And as always, gang, we appreciate you guys joining. Go ahead, Matt. You had something else?
I just wanted to wish Bryce Underwood a good night. That's all.
Yes, young King Bryce Underwood. We're excited for you.
Thanks gang.
We appreciate you all as always, and we'll look forward to talking to you next week.
Let's go Red Wings. And that's a wrap. Hope you don't miss us too much until next time. Follow the Sick Podcast Hockey Town Hangout on YouTube, Facebook, Google Play, and Apple Podcasts.